take every game as they come, but just how personally satisfying a performance like this for you, kind of go toe-to-toe with Mahomes and come out on top?
It's huge. For me personally, it's just obviously I've had this game, circled for a long time. It's my first start. Obviously didn't play how I wanted to the first game, so being able to see these guys again and get the victory is huge.
I think it's time as an NFL community we begin to put some respect on Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers for what they've been able to accomplish the last month or so of this NFL season. It wasn't too long ago when this team was 3-6. I think they were headed towards their worst season in 5 years. Maybe a new rookie quarterback in next year's draft and a complete rebuild of the roster. But since we've hit mid-November, the Packers are finally starting to show what type of team they're capable of being, and that they might indeed have yet another franchise quarterback. And I won't lie, Packer fans have probably been some of the most fortunate fans when you take into consideration they've had 20 straight years of Hall of Fame quarterback play between Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. So for a while this year, I thought we might actually see a Packers team that's mediocre for a few seasons. But obviously that was kind of the expectations, because anytime you lose a legend at quarterback, you aren't really looked at the same. And depending on what you thought about Jordan Love heading into 2023, you either saw this Packers team as a fringe wildcard team, or maybe even a team that picks inside the top 10. And I haven't talked about Jordan Love much on my channel, so my opinion about him and the Packers going into the season isn't well documented, and honestly that's just because he hasn't played. He was a part of the 2020 class, which has suddenly become one of the best quarterback drafts in NFL history. The draft that also has Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, and now you can even throw in Jordan Love. But the reason that the Love situation is so fascinating is because contrary to when Aaron was drafted to develop behind Favre, the current day NFL doesn't really work like that anymore. Nowadays, teams are super impatient with their young quarterback and need to see results by year 2 or 3 or they move on. So after sitting behind Rodgers for 2 seasons and then the Packers gave him another extension, it didn't feel like the organization was super confident in their Jordan Love selection. But fast forward to this past offseason when Rodgers and the Packers basically got sick of one another and decided to part ways, Love was in line to finally get his opportunity 4 years into his career. In the first 2 games of this season, he actually came out of the gates pretty good. His completion percentage was a little in flux and he wasn't throwing for a ton of yards, but he still made timely plays, had 6 touchdowns to 0 interceptions, and started to generate himself some hype. But that would unfortunately die off pretty quickly because the next 2 months would be a little bit rough. On top of the Packers going 2-5 from weeks 3 to 9, Love had only 8 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, and the discourse surrounding him quickly turned from, hey, he might be the future, to this guy might not be here next year. And that feeling sort of got confirmed during a press conference on November 1st, the middle of this tough streak, by Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst. He said, "We've got 10 games left. These are going to be very important 10 games. I think he's done a lot of really good things. Really like the way he's responded to the adversity, how he's led the team. Again, we've got to be better as a unit, and I expect that to happen over the next 10 games." And I don't know if Gutekunst has a crystal ball or can see the future, but since his comments, that's basically exactly what has happened. Since that presser, Love and the Packers are 4-1. Love is completing 66% of his passes for 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. But really more specifically, the stretch that has gotten a lot of talking heads to begin paying attention to the Packers again are the past 3 weeks. After beating the Chargers in a close game at Lambeau, it was a quick turnaround on Thanksgiving against their division rival, the Detroit Lions, who had already curb stomped them just 2 months prior by 14. The Lions came into this game as a double-digit favorite. Everybody across every panel was picking the Lions to win this game, and honestly, the Packers dominated. They came in throwing haymakers, got off to a 23-6 lead in the game, and they even held on to win 29-22. So after that result, it made me circle their next game, which was conveniently this past Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs. And this game to me felt a lot like the Lions game. The Packers came out of the gates ready to go with a 75-yard touchdown drive that took up half of the first quarter, and they held that lead the rest of the night. Love once again had a masterclass on primetime. He outplayed Patrick Mahomes by a wide margin with 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. And that performance is really why I'm sitting here right now making this video about Love and the Packers. I've been really impressed with Jordan Love the past month, and I'll be the first to admit I doubted him early in the season. I didn't like his poise in the pocket, his accuracy down the field. I mean, he wasn't really playing that well. But what I minimized, and I think a lot of other people did as well, was the lack of experience of not only Jordan, but also the supporting cast around him. There's a big difference between being in the NFL for 4 years and playing in the NFL for 4 years. I'm sure those years of sitting on the bench behind Aaron Rodgers helped Love master the LaFleur offense, polish up his technique some, and even gain some confidence. But in terms of knowing the speed of the game, what defenses can throw at you and how to adjust, Love didn't have any experience with that. So looking back, although Love is technically a 4-year pro, it's understandable that he took some time to get adjusted and settle in. I think his poise and deep ball accuracy are two elements that have improved the most the last month, and that doesn't just happen. Live game reps are definitely the biggest solution to why we've seen a drastic improvement in those areas of his game. And what also combines with that is just building more chemistry with his weaponry. I already mentioned how young the entire offense is, but let me put that into a bit more perspective. The Packers roster has an average age of 24.9 years old, which is the youngest the NFL has seen in 6 years. Their starting 3 wide receivers are 2 second-year players in Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, and rookie Jaden Reed. But he's not the only rookie wide receiver that they drafted this year that gets snap on the team. They also have their 5th round pick in Dontavian Wicks, an undrafted free agent in Malik Heath, and they also have a pair of tight ends that they drafted this past year as well in the 2nd and 3rd round in Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. So when you break down the age of this offense and how there's not really any key veterans, it's pretty ridiculous how this offense has been able to play the last month or so. And they've been doing it without their most proven weapon and running back Aaron Jones for much of the season. He's dealt with a variety of injuries, but he should be back for the final stretch of the year, which will add yet another fold to this offense that we haven't really seen consistently. So considering how things were looking with this team just a few weeks ago and how young this roster is, it's honestly super impressive how they've been able to turn their season around. The Packers find themselves at 6-6 and in sole possession of the number 7 seed in the NFC playoffs, and I think they have a great opportunity to make the playoffs when you look at their remaining schedule. According to Strength of Schedule, the Packers have the easiest remaining 5 games in the entire National Football League. They play at the Giants and Tommy DeVito on Monday Night Football next week, then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Carolina Panthers, and then they finish their season with 2 divisional games in the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. I believe the Packers will be favored in 4 of their last 5, if not every single game. So things are looking really great for this team to get to double-digit wins and get one of those top wildcard spots. And if they do finish the season as strong as I think they will, Matt LaFleur deserves a lot of credit for what he's been able to do. I know a lot of Packer fans were a little iffy on him throughout the Rodgers tenure, but I think he's shown over the past month or so that he knows what he's doing, he can develop a quarterback, and he's a good offensive mind. So the fact that he's currently plus 15,000 to win Coach of the Year seems wild to me and doesn't quite do him justice of how well of a coaching job he's done this season. But regardless of their final results in 2023, the future of this team looks super bright. You have a very nice young core and offense that'll continue to gel and grow together. You have multiple star players on defense headlined by Kenny Clark, Jair Alexander, and Rashawn Gary. And then you have 5 premium picks in next year's draft, an added 2nd rounder from the Jets for Aaron Rodgers, and a 3rd round from the Bills for Rasul Douglas. So if the Packers organization wants to add more help on the offensive line or get yet another weapon for Jordan Love, they have more than enough capital to do so. They also smartly extended Jordan Love prior to the season on a 1-year deal worth $22.5 million, basically what his 5th year option would have been worth. So they will still have some cap flexibility as well to do some things in free agency. So the Packers look to be headed in a really good direction with Jordan Love, and Packer fans have to be encouraged after a lot of questions surrounded this team all offseason. But now we wait and see how they close out the season and if they can exceed everyone's expectations and win a playoff game. But I want to know what you think about Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Have you been impressed with them the last month and think they can win a playoff game this year? Or do you still have some questions about their future and what they can accomplish this season? But subscribe to the channel if you are new, drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next one.